just by asking different questions of ourselves. Instead of going, aging is wrinkles. Well, Cody, what if aging actually looked different?
Well, we're here on a Friday night. RadFest is wrapping up for the evening. We have the rest of the weekend to go. Very exciting stuff going on. You just gave a talk. This is Dr. Melissa Petersen. All right. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. Tell us a little bit about what you do, how you got into the longevity field, and what's your inspiration?
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking, Cody. I'm the founder of Human Longevity Global. And so we are a parent company to two educational companies, Human Longevity Institute and Peptide University. We also have a consumer lab and a media division. And so really, at the core, the mission is to expand human flourishing globally. And for me, it's not just about how long we live. It is really understanding how do we human differently so that we can express and experience more aliveness and vitality today, so that we are living better today for longer tomorrows. And specifically, how did I get into the arena? That kind of goes back. So on the short version, years ago, actually it's been about 19 years ago, my mother transitioned days after her 54th birthday. And I had already had a mindset since I was a little kid. I looked around at my family and I'm like, I have good genes. I'm going to live a long time. I come from Italian descent and all of my elders were robust and smoking and joking and just living with so much vitality in life. And then when that happened to my mother, I was like, okay, wait a minute. This is a real disconnect, but I also knew, wait a minute, genes are not our destiny. My mother's story does not have to be mine. And what do I believe is true for me? And I was already deep within the science of epigenetics and understanding that the quality of our environments and the inputs that we bring in directly and inform and influence how our bodies express health or how they accelerate into breakdown, dysfunction, and disease. And so those were kind of the early seeds of just saying, there's an opportunity to do things differently. And as I progressed I've been out in clinical practice and both a doctor in the field and then educating all my fellow educators for over 30 years. So by time, as we look today, it was probably about 7-8 years ago. And about 7-8 years ago, I started to really dig deeply into the sciences of what was happening and looking at it and, even looking at things here at RadFest. And I wrote a book, Codes of Longevity. And when I went in and started to study, I was like, the way longevity science is designed, it makes everybody else feel like somehow it's complicated and complex and we're missing something. I'm like, but it's actually really quite simple. And so I was like, I'm really on a mission, not only to help the end consumer be able to have a simplified path to human flourishing, but I'm like, I just want to get back to the core to create a model that enables the individual, the healthcare industry, but then beyond healthcare, really health, vitality, immortality, longevity. It's not just between doctor and patient. It's not just a one-on-one job. It is the environments we live in. It's really this model that's saying, how do we create the environments, the policy, the education, the food systems, the farming, the pathways that ultimately all can direct back to the individual experiencing greater health. Now, that was a long answer, so I just gave you a lot to unpack in just a minute.
Very interesting stuff, and I see why you're here talking to us. I think we have a very like mind on what's going on here. So I don't know how much Wallace had told you about Immortalis, but I'll kind of rephrase it here or shorten it up. So we're actually trying to create the environment where scientists like the people we see here and what you've done before, you can come in and have fast-tracked approval processes through FDA or whichever regulation, depending on the country. And because of that, it's cheaper to go through trial. And because of that, you get more funding because there's a higher percentage of success, so investors are more likely to invest. So you get that whole cycle, that winning momentum, and it speeds everything up and gets us across that finish line. Sure. So we're trying to create what Dubai has done and what Singapore has done in financial technology, and Shenzhen has done with the little fishing village and turned it into a 12 million population. We want to do that, but focus it on the biotech industry.
Yeah. So let me share this with you, Cody. And I've had the opportunity to sit down with some of the most beautiful minds out there, and it's always, I say this with respect, that one of the things that we are doing, as it's an interesting rub. We need to be thought leaders, we need to be innovators, we need to be looking at the technology and the opportunities. And yet often what we're funding and moving ahead are a lot of molecules. Now, I have Peptide University. I'm all about small molecules and the role of how we have tools in our toolbox to affect the human system to do what it's naturally designed to do. But it's not just about a product that we could sell, right? So yes, that's a part of it. But if we truly want to extend health span, lifespan, immortality, we use these words. I always say, what's in a word? Health. So health is not just something we put in our bodies, but it is literally the environments that we live in, right? It's the
Yes.
quality of the input, what's informing this environment. And so what I'm really inviting biotech companies, what I'm inviting governments and educational groups and agricultural groups, architectural firms, science, tech, arts, tech, all of it, is to say, wait a minute, we actually can use the markers of health span to inform and influence a design structure. To all of a sudden, I can think about, how do I want to build a building that can actually lower HRV? Excuse me, actually increase HRV. Let me be real clear about that. Let me say that differently. How can we create an environment that can lower cortisol? How can we infuse purpose and connection into educational tracks? Like, how can we think differently about the way we're utilizing our money to get an amplified ROI? So I'm with you. I'm all about biotech, and I love what's coming, because there are still a lot of things that we don't have solutions for, right? There's a lot of
Right.
opportunities to find cures, to find better ways of treating, but let's even go beyond treating. We shouldn't continue to look to say, well, let's do it 2 steps better and still beat the drum of the problem. Let's still treat. No, why not help to do what the body's designed to do, which is actually heal, and then move into greater states of saying, how do we help the body continue to actually flourish? And that's all about resilience. It is about optimization. It's not just treating problems, and please forgive me. I don't mean to speak out of line, because I don't know the book of work that you guys are backing. So I'm not implying that you're not doing this.
No,
I'm
I
making a
understand.
larger
No, I
conversation,
understand. And
right?
I agree. You have to, and a lot of people here are on board with that because we don't have a magic pill.
Yeah.
You have to do what you can to optimize the body with what we've got, have it do what it's designed to do. And then the science, in my view, where that steps in, is to just take us over that edge
Yeah.
where the body doesn't have to do any decline.
Right. And when we think about the concept of longevity escape velocity, it's like, so I'm just going to stick with environmental design for a moment, because this is so key, that part of us think like, okay, well, I have to eat a certain way, or maybe I got to sleep a little bit better. But one of the things that we all forget, or is often overlooked, is that the human system, we are nature. Like, we are nature. We are the natural world. And this is the most intelligent technology that exists. So, in biotech, often what's being created, it's coming from what already exists inside the body. This is the most powerful pharmaceutical, manufacturer we're ever going to find. And so we look at the term biohacking. We're trying to hack the natural processes that occur in the body and that are mimicked around us in nature. And so how do we help this body slow down that pace of aging, kind of get ahead enough till we have more inventions and things come that can really help us, like you said, kind of go over that line. So it's a net positive gain, that we don't have to age. Aging truly can be optional. And I say that all the time. Well, something as simple as the 24-hour light-dark cycle, circadian rhythms, our hormones, every single cell in our body have clock genes, and key hormonal processes, signals throughout the body to say start, stop, all these, again, I'm going to keep it very simple for right now, are directed by the light and the dark. And we are bombarded by way too much blue light at the time of the day when we should have red lights and amber hues, or dark, and vice versa. So, when we look at how are we living and how can we do it more intelligently in alignment with human design, so it's about designing for the human system And those are some of the ways that we can really bring this in. And so it's not just like kind of waiting and hoping like, all right, we're going to find some miracle thing that's going to cross the line. It's an entire ecosystem. And that's where I think we get too myopic. I think we forget like we're not siloed. This is a complex system that mimics everything around us, so
Yeah, I think
using it for
nature
intelligent
and
design.
yeah, I think nature and history both prove that there's never going to be a magic pill. Like,
Right.
oh, it doesn't matter what you do, just do this and you're good. Like,
Yeah.
no, it takes effort and it takes work.
It does. But imagine this, and this is what's like so important. I'm going to talk about it here on my keynote on Sunday. When we intentionally build our environments with the knowing, the science, and the knowledge, we actually work smarter versus harder. Because if we can create a design that works with the natural cues and signals versus in chaos every day, like we are constantly working against ourselves. Like, so we are rapidly aging. And let's just use again the example of circadian light. So just by being on screens all the time, right? And I'm not talking about wearing blue blockers all the time. I'm saying like we have so much around us that's already having us work against our natural design. So now we just do one little thing and we go, let's just work and create in accordance with this design. So that's one less inflammatory cycle, right? One less thing that's having the body break down faster. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we don't have to actually work as hard. And that's the whole thing. It doesn't all have to be effort and hard. Like we can actually start to thrive because that's the natural state of the human system. It's to flourish, it's to thrive, it's to evolve forward. And we can effort and we can do it really hard, or we can help to work with it. It's like if you think about the river, it flows one way, right? Why are we always trying to swim upstream? Let's flow with it and use that momentum and use what's naturally there.
We can shove the square peg through the round hole, but why not use a round peg?
Absolutely.
Okay, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
All right. So is there anything you're currently working on to this end that you want to talk about?
Well, it's really our regenerative health span model. And so for example, Human Longevity Global, not only are we out there educating the doctors, the clinicians, the thought leaders, the literally the business leaders and the innovators that are bringing this to market. We are now advising many top companies, and I'm on the advisory board with Smart Cities Council. And so they're a global council, and literally we are bringing the initiative of HealthSpan to say, how do we design with HealthSpan in mind? Because here's the thing, if we at least hold the intention and we understand what moves that needle, we're going to have a lot greater likelihood of achieving that outcome. But if we never even design with that in mind, then we're never going to hit it. We're always going to swing for the fences and miss, right? So yes, it's a huge initiative. We've got a massive global certification. So think of organic certified or LEED certified or well building. We are literally bringing out the SPAN certification so that we can have a global system of saying, how do we actually design and measure and create policy and create, initiatives that are already looking at just several core factors based in science that can help this system thrive the way it's intended and increase health span.
Okay. And are you working with like building developers and city planning with all of this?
So it's smart city councils. It's not just, so literally our certification we are really targeting the 12 key sectors of society. So it's not just urban planning and city development. Yes, that is one group. Absolutely. Architecture firms. Yes. I go and I keynote at some of these different, places. So it's not just here talking to the end consumer or to the health doctor. It's literally, we're also talking to education. We are talking to governments and policymakers. We are talking with farmers. We are talking, so we are talking with media. And one of the big things I'll share on Sunday is one of the biggest opportunities that we have is how we tell the story. And one of the things that we know that drives the rate and pace of aging greater than anything else is perception. So how do we perceive aging? What is the narrative that we believe aging to mean? And for many people, you say the word aging, what pops into your mind?
Wrinkly old people.
There you go. Wrinkly old people. Exactly. So does that evoke flourishing, thriving, immortality?
No, it does
It
not.
does not, right? So it's really step one is we get to shift that narrative and actually reframe. So instead of aging as decline, it's aging as advanced flourishing. And what does that actually mean? So there's a lot of ways that we can actually start to tackle this. So even just through a media division, we get to tell the story differently, we get to show the story differently. We get to put out
Okay.
different imagery. We're working with the art community to literally in cities like create art. One of the things that we know help to drive a different perception is curiosity. So just by asking different questions of ourselves, instead of going aging is wrinkles. Well, Cody, what if aging actually looked different? Now I don't even have to tell you how it could look different, but just by me
But
saying,
yeah,
right
automatically I'm thinking,
now,
how could it look different? And
exactly.
even if I'm not, imaginative enough to think, I'm going to ask, I don't know, tell me. So I
Exactly.
see where you're
Well,
coming from.
but you're going to start to go, well, how could it look different? And there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system that as we feed it, it notices it. So if all of a sudden I'm going, well, how could it look different? I'm like, well, it could look really strong. It could look really energized. And all of a sudden then my brain starts to look for examples of, oh, there's a strong person. There's a vibrant person. Doesn't matter what age they are. We start to notice, wait, I can notice how life wants to show up in new ways. It's all
Okay.
there. We're just not focused. We're not noticing it because we're thinking it can only mean one thing. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It reminds me of an analogy I've heard before of, I guess not an analogy, but an experiment maybe of, okay, look around the room, look for all the red things you can find.
Exactly.
And then close your eyes. What did you see that was blue? Oh,
Yeah, I missed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing if all of a sudden my best friend and she's on our boards, Dr. Stephanie Rimko, we were sitting there and she's just like, I'm putting in a bid for a white Mustang. Okay. So white Mustang, I'm going to say that now all of a sudden you're going to go out and start noticing white Mustangs on the road,
Yeah.
because it's there and we're looking, well, she will because she's looking to buy it. So she's like, focus. I want the white Mustang. I want the, and that's all of a sudden what starts showing
It was
up.
always there, but now she's seeing
Exactly.
it. And so we need to shift that perception of we're not looking at the nasty sides of aging. We need to shift the perception to see the beauty and the wisdom and the strength that comes from that. So I like what you're doing there. So
Thank you.
with all of that, I'm not going to try to recap everything because you're involved with
I know.
so much.
We did a lot.
But with all of that, what do you find are some of the roadblocks you run into that's slowing down the progress you could otherwise be making?
I think the roadblocks honestly are roadblocks are our mindset. So, and this, like, unfortunately, when we're in a community like this, too many researchers have to follow a very specific path of how something gets brought to market. And it takes time, it takes money, yes, but it also is a very conservative approach. I understand we have to be safe, we have to be effective, and we have to do all that kind of good stuff. But there's still too few visionary thinkers. People are we're linearly growing. We're going one step forward instead of quantum leaping. So I actually think one of our greatest rate limiting steps is that we're not thinking big enough. We're just not. And that's what I actually love about like the X Prize. I love moonshots because when we think bigger, like, look, maybe all I'm going to get approved for is 5 steps forward, but that's better than 1 or 2 steps. Like that's how we're moving at a snail's pace because we are continuing to allow the system to direct us that way. It's like, no, we need more moonshots. We need more visionary thinkers. And we need to give ourselves permission to say, and we want to fund that. We want to know the biggest ideas out there because we're never going to find them unless we give people permission to think differently.
Yeah. So if people are thinking, I only want to move 1 step forward, then the most you're going to get is 1 step forward. But
Not
if you
even,
say,
but yeah.
I want to move 100 steps forward, but you only get forward 15 steps,
Yeah.
that's 15 times better than the alternative. So, okay.
And we know, like, one of my favorite books is 10X is easier than 2X. Like it's so much easier when we think much bigger to go, all right, because when we see it, it's then what's the back cast? But sometimes when we're only kind of like, well, what's the next step? And we are just more hesitant. We're more conservative. We find all the reasons why it can't. And it's a lot easier to go out and get people excited about $100 million project than $1 million. And look, you've raised money. It's easier to get 100 million than $1 million, is it not? It really is, because people are like, "Oh my gosh, what's that thing? I want to do it." So again, I believe it is we get to be excited. And again, there's a lot of science behind why it works that way. But yeah, the biggest roadblock is how we limit ourselves. So I want to invite everybody listening, watching, to really imagine if you could just think 10 times bigger than what you're already thinking. If you could envision a future 10 times brighter, 10 times more vital, 10 times more alive and flourishing, what would that look like? What would that feel like? What would that be like? And if we can start from there, then imagine what becomes possible.
So, well, you just answered the next question I was going to ask, which is, what do you think the solution to that is?
Yeah.
And it's think 10 times bigger.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else you would like to say to the viewers that they could do to help themselves or to help you in any of the things you're doing?
Thank you. I think two things. First, how to help ourselves is to absolutely, we've all given our power away, thinking it's somebody else's job to help us, and that we're not enough, we're not well equipped, we're not smart enough, we don't have enough money, we don't have enough resources, and we're always looking for the thing. I'm aging too fast, so what's the thing? What's the thing? It's to first realize that, like I said, this human system is the most advanced technology that exists. We are more powerful than we ever have allowed ourselves to believe. And so quit looking out and get really curious about what's in. And so I think that is step one. And I say that with love. And it's a hard thing because we're like, oh, okay, yeah. And then we start and we're like, oh, like it's all the internal programming. So just stay with it and just go. And that's okay. But then we can get curious. Well, what if I did really believe I had everything I need within me, right? So step one, you are incredibly powerful, competent, capable. Just begin with them. How can you potentially help me? Thank you for that. You know, we want to get as many people involved with our SPAN certification. And again, we certify clinicians already in this education, but for non-clinicians, it's, you know, come to Human Longevity Global, come to humanlongevity.institute.com, lean in, learn, be a part of it, because there are things that we all can do individually. And then it's what can we do in our communities? What can we do globally? But know that just by caring enough to think differently within yourself, then you start showing up differently, you start acting differently. It's a ripple effect out. So yeah, just come visit us, humanlongevityglobal.com, humanlongevity.institute.com, mypeptideuniversity.com. Come to any of the places, lean in, find it out.
Well, Melissa, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure we're going to talk more because I think we could work together and make a lot of things happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cody. I appreciate the opportunity and the time.